Those three squad. Alright. The next NBA betting scandals here. Alright, so long story short, we have a new player in the NBA that is shit at basketball, but somehow made it to the NBA. This is what I'm trying to say. The NBA needs to expand and find new talent. There's a lot of people in like Europe and those other places that are way better. But anyways, there's a new bum that made it to the NBA. Isn't good enough to make NBA money, so he's scandaling.
2023. Terry Rozier started for the Charlotte Hornets in New Orleans. Grabbed a few rebounds, hit a few shots, playing great. Then after 9 minutes, he is ruled out with a foot injury. No limp, he wasn't stepped on, nothing. But some people obviously saw this injury coming, because earlier that day, is there any reason why there are 0 Terry Rozier props on any sports books or DFS sites? Did I miss something? No, he wasn't listed on the Hornets injury report before the game, but obviously somebody knew something.
Somebody knew something.
Sportsbooks took Rozier off their menu to not take any more bets, but why? And now Rozier plays just
my fault. He's gonna read it for us.
9 minutes and then is out the rest of the game. Conspiracy theorists are gonna run with this one. Yes, they will. Except it wasn't some wacky conspiracy. It turns out on game day.
Look, didn't he hurt his foot right there?
A firm called U.S. Integrity notified sportsbooks of abnormal betting volume on Terry Rozier unders. Unusual, because U.S. Integrity only raised a red flag 3 times in 2 years. Twice for a player named Jonte Porter, now banned for life for a betting scandal, and once for Terry Rozier. Uh-oh, is this proof that Terry is guilty of rigging bets? Or is it just a big coincidence? Well, there's a lot more to this story when you dig in. So this all started March 2024 when the NBA announced it was investigating 2 Raptors games where Jonte Porter's prop bets were suspicious. A lot of money was bet on the unders, and it turned out Jonte pulled himself early from both games. It was as if some shady bettors knew something beforehand. Well, they eventually made arrests, and Jonte pled guilty to betting on himself and giving others information to clear his debts. But in January this year,
what the fudge? I didn't know all of that. I knew they banned him. I didn't know he pled guilty and they charged him and the other people. Damn.
A 5th person was arrested and text messages were leaked. Before a game on January 26, 2024, Jonte gave somebody a heads up. You should hit unders for the big numbers. I told name, no blocks, no steals. I'm gonna play the first 2-3 minutes stint off the bench. Then when I get subbed out, I'm gonna tell him my eye's killing me again. Which
this light-skinned idiot is giving play-by-play. Just say under. Like, literally. Or just send a down emoji. You trying to say? Like, what the fuck?
Which is exactly what happened. If you look back at the tape, you can see Jonte pointing at his eye as he's coming off the court. But this 5th guy who was arrested was forwarded those texts. He then shared the info around, which created a ton of bets that set off alarms. Then, after everyone else was arrested, this guy tried to escape and was caught trying to board a plane to Colombia.
Damn, that's how serious it is? How much did he make back? Damn, how much money did he make?
With a one-way ticket and $10,000 in cash. But how does this link to Terry Rozier? Well, the Wall Street Journal says authorities believe some of the people who arranged for Porter to fix his performance in 2 games last season had inside information that prompted them to bet large sums of money.
Wait. No, pause, because there's people who literally kill people, go to the airport, even like when it's on the news, or they might make it before it's on the news, and escape. How big of a deal was this where the airport, you trying to say, like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, what?
Against Rozier a year earlier. Really? So Rozier...
Like for a $1 trillion company like the NBA and all these people connected to the NBA, that, oh shit, my mic is so far away. All these scamming ass rich people, they're really worried about, like, nah, you guys are too greedy.
Rozier is somehow connected to this group that Porter was working with? How? I mean, Jonte was barely in the NBA making league minimum. Terry is a legit NBA player. Got a $100 million contract. Why would he risk his career for any amount of money? And by the way, his career is over if this is true, okay? The NBA chose to ban Jonte Porter for life. A judge even blocked him from playing overseas.
Damn.
Basketball is done. So let's look back at the...
They could do that? What kind of judge could tell a next country this guy can't play overseas? I feel like that's too much power. That's too much power.
The full game tape...
What the fuck you mean you can't play? Like, imagine if I'm China and you're in America telling me, yo, you can't play ball over here. What the fuck you mean you can't play ball over here? Ching ha mi hong, you come over here. Like, fuck you talking about?
For Terry Rozier. This only applies, by the way, to the one game when Terry was on the Hornets in 2023. I know a lot of people pointed to that Heat game earlier this year when Terry freaked out at Bam Adebayo for a garbage time rebound, which was weird. But that's not what set off the red flag. In this game, Terry starts and looks good, getting physical here, guarding Brandon Ingram early, no signs of a limp. Later, look, he goes really hard after that rebound.
Damn, why is he begging for the rebound?
Racing is everything to me. We get paid
Suspicious.
to perform. We don't have contracts. We don't get paid unless...
Unlike Jonte Porter, who is actively avoiding rebounds. I mean, if you're trying to hit the under, you don't fight for a board like this. But hey, it could be he's getting under for points. Nope, here he is hitting a bucket. No hesitation. But rewind that.
Uh-oh. I was gonna say, so far he looks clean.
Before that bucket, he awkwardly hops. Is his foot bothering him there? Hard to tell. Later, while bringing the ball up the court, though, he sort of like kicks his foot out like he's trying to shake something off. But then when Terry walks off for the last time, not even a limp. He wasn't even stepped on. Dude was then out the next 8 games with an injury. But this would be a huge...
So then I guess he was telling the truth, right? He was out for the next 8 games?
Scandal.
So far, he looks clean.
Terry Rozier is a rotation player for the Heat. If he gets banned, what happens to his roster spot? Why did he even need the money after making $100 million? I mean, bets on props are like low limits. It is very hard to make like millions of dollars on a Terry Rozier under and get away with it. By the way, Terry hasn't been charged or even officially accused of doing anything wrong. The NBA investigator found no wrongdoing. This is nothing like the Jonte Porter scandal so far.
No,
remember,
that's suspicious. That's suspicious.
As soon as Jonte was investigated, he was pulled from the Raptors rotation. Yeah, Terry has just been playing. So I feel bad if his name is connected here to all of this because the government thinks something might have happened. I mean, people are already assuming that he's guilty, calling him things like thug. But what if something did happen here and it wasn't Terry's fault? The most valuable information that bettors can have is about minutes, because minutes equals stats. Very useful when you're trying to bet props. For example, last season the Nets were resting 3 starters against the Bucks, not including Mikal Bridges. But smart bettors knew that Mikal owns the active streak for most games played in a row.
Uh-oh. I know he's gonna say. He's gonna say so they're gonna bet his under because he's gonna sub in and sub out.
So the Nets probably wanted Mikal to rest, but he said, no, let me at least start so I can keep my streak alive. Sure enough, Mikal only played the first quarter hitting the under. ESPN says that one bettor made $22,000 on a parlay. Another had a ticket in to win $61K. But was any of this illegal? No. These were just smart bettors who knew the NBA better than the sports books. But who else has inside information that could be...
Did they get the money? I want to know that.
Illegal. Outside of players, it could be a lot of people. It could be the training staff, an intern, a friggin' PR person. They all could have known from being at practice that Terry was fighting through a foot issue and was going to try to play through it that night. This is why the NBA comes down so hard on teams for not publishing all of their injury information. Some teams have been fined like over $100,000. It could be used by shady people like this.
Wow.
In fact, that foot injury...
The NBA does that because they don't want the opponent team to like come up with a game plan. Like, you know, they rather have like them confused. Like, okay, if Joel's here, then we do this, that, and you know, and then they forget the other play if Joel's not here. That's kind of why they do that. What the fuck happened to the volume?
More serious than people knew, but somebody knew and could have leaked this info. It could have been like even a friend or family member. We don't know. So what's more likely? A guy who made over 130 million bucks doing this for a little cash, or somebody connected to the team leaking non-public info. But now
100 how much? 130 million? That's the guy that they called at the airport? I understand now.
Terry Rozier's face and picture are underneath a headline that says betting scandal, which is messed up because now it's going to label him a cheater for the rest of his career, guilty or not. But this thing could get a whole lot bigger. Investigators said the inquiry into Rozier is a part of a wider government probe into a sprawling ring of gamblers and poker players who have allegedly rigged games across the sports landscape. That is huge. They may not have solid evidence on Rozier right now, but we might be on the verge of a gigantic scandal. But that Jonte Porter situation definitely deserves a deep dive. At the time, I put out a video breaking it all down play by play. And unlike the Rozier game, you can clearly see suspicious play by Porter. As soon as the investigators saw this one play, it was...
Nah, the Porter play, I was the investigator that he's talking about. When I seen that play, I called the guys. I said, yo, big man, it's over.